Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1691, Ancestor Challenge. Yes! I mean, today has been so cool. So yesterday I was telling you about the unexpected surprise of getting not one, but two people who have DNA matches with me. And now we're trying to unravel how we are connected, which I love. So I actually ended up spending a lot of time on the computer yesterday working on this. And then I put it aside. And then today when I came into the office, I got my work done that I had to do for clients. And before I went on to the help chat this afternoon, I got in and I started digging a little deeper on one of them. And so I started working on my fourth great grandmother on my, my paternal, so my father's mother's mother's mother. I think that's right. Hang on. It was dad, granddad, great grandma, great grandma. Yeah. So five generations from my dad back. And of course somebody's gone and got her toy. But anyway, and so I started working on that one today. Oh my gosh. I have so many questions and so many puzzles now. I am like, and I didn't want to get on the help chat today because I had all these puzzles to go and work and I needed to concentrate and get those little pieces into place. And it's like, I've got puzzles and they're just not, and they've got puzzle pieces and they're not matching up. And it is like, oh, this is so cool. You know, it's my fourth great grandmother. And no, hang on. Yeah, we're going to go back even further because she's my fourth great grandmother. So I've got to go back another one. 6 generations, going back 6 generations. So there's my dad, my grandfather, his mom, her mom, and then her mom. So 6, going back 6 generations. And I'm the 7th. And it is, and of course, I'm working around the late 1700s, early 1800s, or to mid 1800s. And it's just sort of like, this is the coolest thing that I've had to work on for a while. And one of the things I found out was that my fourth great grandmother, now this one was really weird. I'm like, okay, so I found her in an entry for a workhouse. Now, a workhouse in 1859 was where the poor people went, the paupers and the infirm. I think the infirm. No, what was that definition? Basically, it was a poorhouse that they would go in and work. And my fourth great grandmother was on this list. And I'm like looking at it, it says 1859. I'm looking at the date, 27th of April was when she was admitted and she was released out of there on the 29th of April. I'm like, well, did they kind of use it as sort of like a jail time or something? And so I now have to research that even more. But why was she only in there for 2 days? And where was my fourth great grandfather? Well, my fourth great grandfather was very much alive at this time because he didn't pass away till 1868. And so I'm like, oh, so what was she doing in the poorhouse? And I thought, well, hang on. She passed away in 1859. So then I went back over to her profile to see when she actually died. She died on the 27th of April, 1859, which is the date she was admitted into the workhouse. And I'm like, so how could she be admitted into the workhouse and released 2 days later? Is that where they processed the body when somebody died? So now I've got that question going on as to what was going on in England at the time, 1859. In 1856. And so now I've got that question. And so then I'm like looking up the census reports going, okay, they've got to be on the census report somewhere because they've got a whole slew of kids, right? The oldest one being my third great grandmother. And so they've got this whole slew of kids. There's like about 11 on the list. And then there's like this big gap between like when one was born and when the second youngest was born. There's like a big, like a 14 or 15 year gap. And this puts my fourth great grandmother into her 50s when she had the last 2. And so I'm like looking at this going, I'm not so sure about this. So then I look at the 1851 census and my fourth great grandfather found him. I mean, he is easy to find. He has 3 first names. And then he has his last name. So I've got, it was Abraham, George, Isaac, Adams. Adams is the last name. And so most of the things I've seen him on has been easy to find because he's either got the full name written out or he has Abraham G.I. Adams. So he's very, very easy to find on census reports, on birth certificate, on birth registrations, baptismal records for his kids, wedding records, that sort of stuff, because he uses his full name. So I find him on the 1851 census. He's living in a house, and it says that he's married. He has a housekeeper who has a different last name. And he's like 60 something at that time. He has a housekeeper who's 50, and it says that she's married and she's got 4 kids that are also living in the house. Funnily enough, the two youngest girls that she has are also the name of the same names as his 2 youngest daughters with my 4th great grandmother. And I'm like, well, this is interesting, but why do they have a different last name? And they have the same name as the housekeeper. And I'm like, what's going on here? So then I'm like, well, where's my 4th great grandmother? So I start researching there, and I found her at this house. It says that she was the mother-in-law, and so she was staying with her son-in-law and his 3 children. And on the census report, it had that the son-in-law was a widow. So one of her daughters had passed before the 1851 census. And I'm like, okay, so she's over there helping take care of the grandkids. Daughter's passed. Now, which daughter? I know it wasn't my 3rd great grandmother because different last name. And so then I start researching, and I find that I have 2 Williams that I'm going to have to worry about. So there's a William Heron, who is the place that my 4th great grandmother is at. And then I find a marriage certificate for a William White. Now, William White married Jane, their daughter, Jane. And I know that because Abraham's full name is on the marriage record as the father for Jane. So I knew that connection was correct. But who's this Heron guy, and where does he come in? Who did he get married to? Well, if you take out the youngest 2 kids, who were only 7 and 8 at that time, I'm left with 3 girls. One is my 3rd great grandmother, so it's not her. Then you've got Jane, who married this William White. That leaves Elizabeth. But Elizabeth, I can't find any record of her being married. I can find her on the 1851 census, the 1861 census. I can find her on the different census, and she's always a servant at somebody's house. And I'm like, so who is this guy? Maybe it's the wrong Jane, but everything works. Like her place of birth, her year of birth, everything is like matching up with the, except this William Heron guy. And so I thought, all right, so now I'm looking on different census reports. Have they misspelt the name? And it's been because on one of them marries Tooley, Tooley, but it got interpreted as Lovely, Lovely. And I'm like, okay, so let me go have a look at, no, that's very definitely Heron. That one's definitely White. So we're good. So now I have this Jane Addams that's at this guy's place as the mother-in-law. Trying to figure out, is it my Jane Addams? But everything else on her thing, like her birth year, her place of birth, every other bit of information all lines up with everything that I already have for her. And I'm like, huh. And they had her listed as a laundress, somebody who works in a laundry. So I'm just like, wow. So I've had this whole thing going on all day, and I'm like, and then on the 1861 census, so then we jump ahead 10 years. By now, Jane has passed away because she passed away in 1856. And so then I find Abraham on there with these 2 girls, and he's in this house with only these 2 girls that were on the previous one, and they both have his last name. And I'm like, these are the same girls from the 1851 census, but now they have his last name. Who was the mother? Because I'm thinking, in those days, I don't recall seeing anybody in their 50s still having kids at that time. Any woman in their 50s still having kids at that time. 40s was probably pushing it, but 50s, yeah. So I thought, did they actually belong to the housekeeper? Actually, I think, no, there was just the 3 of them in the house. And again, I knew it was them because they had Abraham G.I. Adams on the census report. So on census, he's written as Abraham G.I. And and if he's on the marriage records, he's got his full name there. If he's on the baptismal records, his full name is there as the father. And so now I have this big conundrum, and I'm sort of like, okay, so now I have to figure out, why was my 4th great grandmother in a workhouse on the day she died? And why was it 2 days later? So the only thing I can think of is that's where her body may have been taken. when she died. That's where the body was taken and prepped for burial. But then I found he died in 1868, and I found his probate record. And in his probate record, it said that he had £300, which back in that day, that was a lot of money. He had £300 to his name, and it listed who his executors were. It didn't list anybody that was going to benefit from anything, which was really unusual, because usually they say, oh, split it up between. Yep, no, there was none of that, because it's kind of like a will, as well as here's the people dealing with the probate, the executor, and all that sort of stuff. But none of that. No children listed in his last will. In fact, in his probate records, no children were listed. And I'm like, well, that's really weird. So now I have this little puzzle going on, and it's been bugging me all afternoon. I've been wanting to get back to it, and sort of like, I really want to get back in there and start digging deeper, but I need uninterrupted time, because if I get interrupted, I lose that train of thought. So I finished up work today and just got on and just started doing some research, and then I looked at the clock and went, yeah, I've got to get online now, and then we're going to go for our walk. So that's my huge ancestral challenge. And of course, the other one that I have is finding out where the guy who contacted me through Ancestry, through our DNA match, where he fits into the tree. So I sent him a long message yesterday stating, here's what I found in my tree. This is what I suspect. Please note that these people in my tree are not confirmed. So I haven't done a lot of research on them, meaning that that they are still under investigation, well under investigation. I don't know how they fit in my tree. They're just a little mini tree just floating around in the ether on Ancestry there in my main tree. And the only way I can find them is to type in the names, and then it pops up with a little mini tree. And so I said, this requires a lot more in-depth research and stuff, but I think this is where it's one of these two names. But then he comes and he had a third, and there was a third name that I said, now you have the spelling, I have people in the tree of this spelling, but they're all on my maternal side. And everything that I've found so far with these names is pointing to the paternal side. Also, too, on the DNA match, it says that it's from the paternal side, but that could be a mistake. Because with the DNA match that they're doing on Ancestry now, is they will put whether they suspect it's on your maternal side or your paternal side, which side of the family they think it's on. But because I had more stuff on that side, but I said, if it works out that but I said, but that one's going to be null and void, because where it comes in, it is somebody marrying a third cousin once removed. So that's going to take them out of the running. So it was very interesting. And so I can't wait to get on that side too. And so then he sent me back along. I had sent him a long thing. I said, sit down, grab a cuppa, sit down, read through a lot of stuff in here to digest and figure out. And turns out he lives in Kansas City. So found that out today too. So we're going to be working on this. He's going to work from his angle. I'm going to work from my angle, and we'll see if we can meet up in the middle somewhere. So it's been a very cool day as far as the challenge goes, as far as the Ancestry challenge, the Ancestor challenge goes. So got some curveballs in there and trying to figure out some stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm suspicious of this housekeeper though. Was she the parent of those two girls? Because it wouldn't have been my fault. And in their 50s, yeah, because she would have been about, I think she was 55 when the youngest one was born, when the older of those two girls were born. So it was a big gap between the youngest one that was born and what have I got here? There was a big gap, because she was born in 1790. Yeah, she had her last one in 1829, and then the first of the two girls was born in 1843, and the second one in 1845. So that put her well into her 50s when that happened. And he was a guy, so we could get that. He was 64 when, hang on, that was the death. He was 55 and 57 when the two youngest girls were born. And he was born 2 years before my fourth great grandmother. So, because she was born in 1719, he was born in 1788. So, so she would have been into her 50s when that happened. So I'm sort of like, are they actually hers, or are they somebody else's? So, and they were born before she died. So I got to keep looking for her in the 1851 census to see if there's another place that she could be. But this one just seemed to be, oh, well, this should be easy to find who died. But now it's not turning out so easy to find, because it could be that it's a different Jane Madams. But I've only found the one so far that matches up with everything that I've already got in the system and already got verified. So it's fun. So do you have a challenge in your family tree that you want to solve, you want help with, or anything like that? So it's good to get out there and just get the gray matter working. Yes, I love working on theories and, well, maybe it's this way, or maybe it's that way, maybe this happened, maybe that happened, and then trying to see what I can prove. So yes, we're going to prove. She's eager to go for a walk. So we've got that going, and we still have going across the bottom of the screen, because I'm done for the day. So we still have going across the bottom of the screen that if you go to beforethedirtnapshop.com, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now, and purchase our gratitude and coffee journal, you will go into the drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. And my goal is to sell one a day. And I've been doing very well. My first week, I sold 15 on my first week. So we're now starting week 2. And we will be doing a live drawing on April the 10th. I've got the little Wheel of Name things, sorting out that list. Every time somebody purchases something, it goes on the list. So I can upload it to the Wheel of Names so we can have it randomly spin and pick out somebody. So anyway, that's it from us for this evening. Hope you all have a super fantastic sparkling day. Remember, go to beforethedirtnapshop.com and grab your copy of the Coffee and Gratitude Journal. It looks amazing. Mine is actually on its way. I'm still waiting for it to arrive. And then I can't remember which address I put down for it. Did I put the house address, or did I put my mailbox address? I don't remember. So I'll have to keep an eye on to see where that ends up. But I'll be able to go track it. They got tracking numbers, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey, konera.